Hi everyone, welcome to Blue Heron Hill. I'm Sue. If you've seen one of my last videos on my garden renovation, you know that I am very excited about this upcoming gardening season to see if what I am doing out in my main garden is actually going to have a positive effect on the production of my garden. So let's get into talking about what worked and what didn't work last year. Now, I always keep a journal that I take out into the garden most often. I have plans on where to plant the different varieties. As you can see, it gets rather dirty when I get out into the garden. But this has notes about progress during the year in addition to what I have planted in what location. And I do take some brief notes on how different varieties are doing in the garden and if they have been productive or not, and whether I should keep them in the rotation or perhaps try something new. So we're going to go over that today, and I'm going to let you know what worked and what didn't work in my garden in 2024, and a little bit about what is going to go on in the 2025 garden. So let's get into it. After years of underperformance, of which I was kind of in the back of my mind not really knowing what it was, but realizing over the last couple years what its real problem was. And that was this, and I'm thinking this horsetail fern that was totally invasive and taking up a lot more of the nutrients and the root space that a lot of my vegetable plants in this garden it was taking away from their production, especially in the tomato department, which seems to be everybody's favorite fruit. It is to grow in the summertime. Let's start off by, and I have a few notes here. Let's start off by talking about beans. We'll get to the tomatoes later, but the beans mostly that I grow are pole beans, and they seem to produce extremely well no matter which garden I have them in. Now, purple potted pole beans are one of my favorites. I like the purple potted ones because they're purple and they don't get disguised in the foliage. And, you know, they're kind of interesting to have around, even though they do turn green after you cook them. So those are definite musts. I've been growing those for years. Another one that I've been growing for probably about 3 or 4 years are the Monte Gusto, and they are a pole bean and they are yellow. And those are definitely on the to grow again list. I did grow a couple of new beans. This was one I grew, the Red Swan. I grew them because of the color red. You can see a theme here. I really like color in my garden and not just the green. These turned out to be very prolific, and I was very excited about them and very, very pleased with them. So, and these were in my main garden, which, you know, had that issue, but still they did very well and they were very productive. So these are bush bean. And I will be finding a spot in my garden for these again in 2025. Another bean I grew were jade beans. I wasn't so particularly happy with those, so they didn't make the comeback list. Another one I grew was dragon's tongue bean, which turned out to be pretty good. They were pretty prolific, even though they were in the main garden too. I did let some go and had dry beans with those. But I'm not sure that I want to grow those again this year. because they take up a lot of space. The plants became pretty large and very bushy, and I'd rather concentrate on the vertical growing of beans. So they may not make it unless I have a few spots that I can tuck those into. Next was broccoli. Every year broccoli and the brassicas do very well. Waltham is the variety of broccoli that I generally use year after year. Cabbage, Brunswick is the variety that I grow. Very good. I grew another cabbage was a Tierra, and they're called a mini for high density gardening. And that's the type of gardening that I like to do. Pack as much as I can into a tiny little space, and it has worked very well for me. So the Tierra cabbage are also on my list. Chinese cabbage is another thing that I grow every single year, but every single year I have issues with just being plagued by slugs. No matter what I try to do, whether spraying or tenting or anything like that. But I probably stick them in again because I'll just rip those outer leaves off and deal with whatever is left out of the Chinese cabbage. Carrots. Oh, I grow tons of different kinds of carrots. Probably my all-time favorite is Danvers 126 and half longs. And so that always goes in. I have a number of other carrots. I'm just going to be using old seeds. Let me see. Here's some Danvers that I have. A new one I'm going to throw in is Purple Dragon. These I've had before for color. I didn't have any more seeds left. I have some Kyoto Red, which I'll put in there. And oftentimes I just mix them all up and harvest whenever they look done or whenever I feel like harvesting. Oh, another little one that I do have is called Little Fingerlings. They are so cute. They're about the size of your finger and very sweet, very tasty. And those, I definitely will have a row or two of those to go in. Celery is Tango that I use. My celery did well again this year. Actually, last year was exceptional, even though it was in the main garden and it did have to compete a little bit with that horsetail fern, although it was in an area where that wasn't as invasive as some of the other areas in the garden. So Tango is the variety that I particularly like. Cauliflower, Snowball. Cauliflower is what I like. It's regular. It's kind of a small cauliflower. Now, cucumbers. I always grow a lot of cucumbers. I try and grow a great different variety. Last year, I think I may have had 5 different varieties of cucumbers. Yikes. Maybe that was biting off a little bit too much. But I did put in silver slicers, which were my first time. They were so prolific and they're so good. So those are definitely going in. Market More is always a favorite slicing cucumber that I will continue to put in. I always have a pickling cucumber or two. Last year I did National Pickling cucumbers. They turned out to be good. One that did not turn out very well was the lemon cucumbers. Those are the round ball ones that were lemon, yellow. I did them just as an interesting variety to put in. I found though that their flavor was not so hot and the seed to flesh ratio was a little too many seeds for the amount of flesh that you got. I wasn't impressed with their productivity either. So those may, I know I have seeds, and if I have room on the trellis, I may try and put one of those in again, but I think those really I'm going to take on the, or put on the do not plant again list. Things like, let's see, we've got sugar snap peas. They go in all the time. They've done fabulous for me all the time. Potatoes, I always do Red Norlands and Kennebecs. Let's see, sweet potatoes, they're a whole different story there. I did grow Georgia Jet last year and some Beauregards, and I'm going to try and get slips from all those. And one didn't outperform the other. I'll put a link up here and you can watch some of my sweet potato videos. Maybe I'll even put the playlist up there. I'm not going to get into the winter squash. I'm just going to save that all for a different video because that is worth a whole different video. Anyway, so, okay, now on to tomatoes and peppers. Tomatoes, it's going to be a whole new ball game for tomatoes in 2025. So the past 4 years or so with tomatoes, it marked a very difficult period in the productivity of my tomatoes. And I've always thought in the back of my mind it was this invasive species that I've been dealing with. And I've eliminated many of the varieties because I thought that they were underachievers. You know, I tried many different varieties of paste tomatoes, many different varieties of slicers in hopes that I would find one that actually liked it in my garden. But, you know, it really wasn't their fault. It was my garden's fault. But now that I think hopefully I've corrected that problem, I can't really go back and grow all those different varieties again. I just don't have the space. So I have to pare it down to those tomatoes that I feel I need for my home preservation. And along the way, I probably will add a few new varieties just for flavor profiles and stuff like that. So let's get into what I plan on growing in 2025. Okay, Amish paste has always been on my list and will continue to be on my list. It is a great paste tomato, rather large, very beefy, very few seeds. Makes excellent sauce. And to that, I do add different slicing tomatoes to add, as I said before, different flavor profiles to the sauces. Celebrity is a determinate tomato. It is on the medium size and very prolific and does extremely well. Even it did well, even working against that weed. So that I will put in again. Jetstar is another one. If I will plant both varieties and then see which one does the best. Hungarian Heart is another not so well-known tomato, but to me, I have been growing it for about 4 or 5 years. It is a large tomato, very beefy, very flavorful. It's an heirloom variety, and I do save the seeds from that tomato. Cherokee Purple is another one. I love that to add into my sauces. It also makes a great slicing, eating tomato in the summer months. Abe Lincoln is another tomato that I want to try. I tried it last year for the first time. It performed very poorly, but I'm going to give it another chance because I've heard very good things about it. And, you know, it was my garden's fault and not the tomato's fault. So I'm giving Abe Lincoln another chance in hopes that it lives up to the reputation that everybody says it has. Okay, one I'm not definitely going to plant is Marmalade Skies. I didn't find it had a whole lot of interest for me. It was a small to medium size yellow tomato. It did well. I didn't even plant it in my main garden. It was over on the other side. I think I had it in a grow bag or something. It was okay, but I think space-wise, I'm going to give the space to a different plant. I do have some Dr. Witchy's seeds from a few years ago, which to give me that yellow tomato, I think maybe I will plant a few of those instead of the Marmalade Skies. Okay, next in the cherry and the grape tomato range here, I always plant 1 or 2 Candylands. These are tiny little currant-sized tomatoes. So prolific, and they keep on giving way up until frost time. So, and they are so much fun. They barely make it into the house because you snack on them out in the garden. Midnight Snack is another one. It is a purplish red cherry tomato. Very prolific, very hardy, strong growth. That's always going to be in my garden. Great taste with that one also. Sun Golds, I don't know. Everybody has to have heard of Sun Gold. It is probably the #1 sweet cherry tomato in everyone's book. Very good. Another one that I think might be close second is another one I'll be planting, which is called the Sun Peach. Very good, very sweet, very flavorful. And that is extremely prolific, even more so, I thought, than the Sun Gold. I had one that it grew up my trellis and up and over into the beans, and it was everywhere. So that's going to go in also. So those are my tomatoes. So let's pop on to the peppers that I plan to put in my garden this year. Now, last year, and yeah, I think it was just last year, I put all of my peppers over on the other side in my raised bed section and not in the main garden. And did they ever do spectacularly? That was one of the reasons that really, made a switch go off in my mind, that perhaps that's what the problem is with the tomatoes, that they had to compete with this. So being over on the raised bed side, these peppers just took off. I mean, they had a spectacular year. I probably have enough peppers in some varieties not to have to plant any this year. But let me go over and let you know what I have in the pepper department. So I have King of the North, which is just like California Wonder in my book. You can pick them green or you can let them go red. They're a very nice sweet bell pepper type and very prolific and very hardy and very strong. I do love that variety. Yum Yum peppers, they are those cute little snacking peppers that will barely make it out of the garden. So those I actually plant in different parts of my flower garden too, and I have them in pots, either on my deck, out on my deck, or in my flower beds out in the front. And you can tuck them in just about anywhere, and they add a lot of color and a lot of green foliage and a lot of deliciousness for snacking. Now, let me see. I have a couple other ones. Advarskis, I think that's how you pronounce it. They are a red roasting pepper. At least that's what I use them for. I didn't plant them last year, but I planted them the year before. So they usually give me enough. So I have enough for like every other year. So coming this year, I will be planting those again. So I will have enough squirreled away downstairs and processed for using for 2 years. 2 types of peppers, not jalapenos, which are jalapenos, but don't have any heat. I've been growing those for at least 6 years, and I just love them. I have turned a lot of people on to those that don't like that heat so much, but like to have that jalapeno flavor in their salsas or in their Southwestern flavored dishes. Now, of course, I will be doing jalapenos also because there's a need for those, for sure. Habanadas are another one. They are the spiceless variety of a habanero. So I have never tried those, but I put those on my list because I heard about them last year. And I'm going to try and grow those because that is another flavor profile that I like, but without the heat. Another hot pepper that I have grown for, this is like, will be my 3rd year, is this Sugar Rush Peach. I did make a wonderful hot sauce out of that, which I used and I put peaches in it, made a fabulous hot sauce. I'll put the link up there to one of my past videos on making that hot sauce. Now, a pepper that I'm not going to plant this year would be a paprika pepper. And I usually plant the Alma paprika pepper. But since I moved my peppers over into my raised bed section, those just exploded with growth. I got pounds and pounds of paprika peppers. I dried them all, and I think I have enough paprika to last me until I'll grow them again in 2026. So that's one I'm not going to grow, but it's not because I don't like it. It's because I don't need it, which is always a great thing. That's what I've got going on. I will talk about in the next video, I think I'm going to talk about my actual seed starting that I do. I do make up a little chart with dates and how I fill it in as to when I should start and when I should transplant and when, you know, or direct seed out in the garden. And we'll get into that, and maybe you can garner some tips and tricks that I have here that I've been hopefully perfecting over the years. So thanks for following along with me on this video. If you're new, thank you for coming along with me. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you're old timers and you're back again, yay! Thank you very much. And let me know how the garden starting is doing for you. And are you putting in anything new? What's tried and true in your garden? So until the next time that we can go digging in the dirt, bye now.